So, a little over 30 years ago, two children showed up at my home in Khan Market in Delhi. They were looking for help in their maths. Now, why my home? There's so many homes there. They chose my home because of my mother. I will show you a picture. Yeah. Can you do a full screen? That's my mother. That's 10 years ago. She's 90 plus now. And the same spirit of volunteering that she had when she was 12 years old, as my Masis tell me. That was the time of independence. She still has that. So really, she's my co-founder. I didn't start this alone. That's the spirit. She has a reputation, even now, that she'll go out of her way to help anybody, even if she can't do it herself. She'll find someone else to do it for, for the person. Now, I was about to take my life in a different direction, but when, life interrupts your plans, I did what a lot of people would do that, They said yes, I said yes. But that yes led to a doorway, a new community that I didn't know then, right? Manzil already existed as a center for 2 to 5 year olds that my mother and Dr. Geeta Chopra had co-founded. But without any planning, without any strategy, without any big plans, I just, these two 12-year-olds who came to me, they sort of sowed the seeds of Manzil. That's how it started. Now, Khan Market, I think all of you know, is one of the most privileged neighborhoods in India, maybe. And what we don't often notice is all the invisible lives around it that keep it running. These were children from there. I had grown up in that house from childhood. I was born there, I had grown up there, but those lives had been invisible to me as well. I hadn't noticed those people. But when I saw these in this new proximity, this very uncomfortable truth stared me in the face, which is talent is everywhere. These are the two, these are not those two. I don't have their picture, I didn't take it at that time. But talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. Right? And as I paid attention, I also began to notice something else, that more than learning, what is scarce is the permission to own it. But I run ahead. Let me go back to those two children. Very soon I got a big jolt when I realized that they don't even know what board maths is. They're in grade 8, and you can't go very far in maths if you cannot apply board maths, because you'll get all your answers all jumbled up and wrong. Right? They were otherwise bright, because I checked them out through other stuff. I realized that there's something wrong in the system that's failing them if they don't know board maths at this stage, bright children. Anyway, the best thing that could be done was to start from scratch. So I did something like, what is 3 minus 8? Is it 5? Is it minus 5? Is it something that can't be done? Right? What I realized also is that when learning is fun and engaging, children are just naturally drawn to it. Soon I had 20 kids coming to my house every day. Didn't take much time. And all of them were unfamiliar with board maths. I wasn't surprised anymore. So we could start with that. But when I was repeating it for the third time, those students who had come first, they protested. They said, wait a minute, we've already learned this. This is something we know. Please teach us something new. How do we go forward? At that time, I was in a bit of a dilemma. Now, do I take maths forward with the children who've already come, or these new children who, if we don't stop for them, we will not be able to involve them? And then I gave these seniors, they were just 3 days, 4 days, a choice that either I teach them or you have the option to teach them board maths. And with my encouragement, which is really my belief in them, they got over their initial hesitation. But unknown to us, what we had done was we had made a shift. We were not just helping students. We had started to build a learning commons. Yeah? There are a lot of well-intentioned education models, and many of them, especially in low urban income contexts, do something which is operate on a belief that students are empty vessels, right? What we learned was the opposite. If you create the right environment, students can become teachers. The learning stopped being a one-way service. It became a shared culture. Age differences mattered less. The room started looking more like a community of practice. This is my own home. We have not moved anywhere else. And less a classroom. And when knowledge flows both ways, people don't just learn content, they learn dignity. The first time we said to a young person, teach somebody else what you already know, we were not just delegating a task, we were transferring an identity that you don't just belong here, you're responsible for what this place can become. At any point now, Manzil, it's been many years, but it's home to over 300 learners and educators directly. This is the response I had. There are about 300 children and young people learning and also being educators. They're learning math, English, science, computers, but also a lot of arts, theatre, music, dance, filmmaking, craft. And they're teaching each other. But that's at one level. At another deeper level, what they're learning is how to be with each other, how to work together, how to solve conflicts, how to offer support and receive it, how to be lifelong learners, because learning is not going to stop. How to look at their own lives with an empowering lens. Not just that, its ripples have spawned now 15 plus alumni enterprises that have their own further ripples. So it's actually impossible to calculate the ultimate quantitative impact. There's a lovely saying I heard once, and I think it just applies with any work you do with human beings. You can sometimes count the number of seeds in an orange if you're very careful in peeling it and not miss any, but you can never count the number of seeds, the number of oranges in a single seed, because it goes over a long period of time. The community has become its own infrastructure. So, my own personal arc, I got educated in very mainstream institutions, SRCC, IIM Ahmedabad, short corporate stint in Canada. And that path would have taken me somewhere else. We all know that. But when I came in touch, which is really a chance happening with these children, the work in community education, it taught me a paradox. And the paradox was that the more grounded you become in real lives of underserved youth, you realize that your leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about what you can do, how can you be committed to someone else being smart and free and confident. So, that's what we got into, building a learning commons. Yeah, I've just talked about all of this. Right, this is our admission process. It's become its own infrastructure. What that has also done with our alumni, here's Pradeep. Pradeep is someone who, through Manzil, got an opportunity to work in the travel industry, then started his own company called Delhi by Locals. Check it out. It's usually in the top 5 in TripAdvisor. But what's exciting for me is not just Delhi by Locals. What's exciting for me is within a year of starting his own company, which is a risky business, he started a non-profit because his office was next door to a slum where he felt Manzil should be. And he came to me and said, why don't you start Manzil there? I said, why don't you? And he started learning by locals. So Delhi by locals, learning by locals. That's Manzil Mystics. They turned their passion of music into both a band, the Manzil Mystics band, and also a foundation that takes music to, they claim, about 3 lakh children in Delhi government schools. So they've taken it further. Anurag and Rashmi are the 2 founders right there. Then there's Dramebaz, which is a theatre group. Shrikant, right here in the middle, in the beard, came to Manzil as a 13-year-old and joined theatre. As a 15-year-old, he was already an upcoming teacher. We have a designation. At 17, he was a full teacher. At 19, he revived Dramebaz as a theatre group, going out and doing things and workshops. And just this year in March, he set up his own foundation. They've all set up their own foundation together. So this commitment, this perseverance, that can take them a long way. Lalit and Uma, Lalit set up a film company called Film Art. They make commercial stuff, but they also do stuff for non-profits because that's where the heart lies. One of the things that Lalit really wanted to do was he went through a lot of struggle learning filmmaking. So he wanted to make it possible for others to learn video editing, graphic design, things like that. And he came up with this proposal that can we run something called the Manzil Media Lab? And I said, okay, we need to fundraise for that if you want to do it. So he and Uma, we actually found, there was somebody who was talking to me about thinking of setting up a foundation in Bombay. They don't have any children, they wanted to give something back to the community. And he says, but it's going to take some time, maybe a year from now. I said, that's fine. I would like you to take the pitch from Lalit and Uma, who will try to prove to you that this work is worth doing, and you just pick holes. Whatever the problems you find in the way they plan and they pitch. And the next thing I hear from this person is we have decided to fund this project. He was not planning to start his foundation for a year. So I responded back on a message saying, thank you for trusting us. He says, not you, it's Uma and Lalit. That was you can imagine how nice it felt. Kabir Cafe, you may have heard of. Neeraj Arya's Manzil, came from Manzil, learned about Kabir and the different people from there. But the basic idea is that as you look at people who are coming to you, how do they become smart, confident, free? It's much more exciting and much more fulfilling than trying to look at what's happening with your own life. So I think the main thing that I have, so my thing has also moved forward because alongside my own work with Manzil, I got into a broader ecosystem, community, the youth collective. I've been one of the founder members, CreateNet Education. The common focus on both is youth agency and leadership in systems that often underestimate the power of youth. And what we have realized is that all this evolution is really not like one chapter leading to the other. It's the underlying philosophy that each chapter keeps returning to, which is that youth cannot be just treated as beneficiaries. They have to be trusted as builders. Yeah? Now, looking at trust, what's trust, right? While I was thinking of this talk, this insight that dawned on me after 30 years, that child, those two children who came to ask for help, that was trust, right? They didn't come for a grant, they didn't come for a platform, a big promise, just help. And that simple moment, that small act of trust, that changed the direction of my life. All the plans I haven't even talked about were left on the side, and this is what I got involved in, right? Now, from the other side of the table also they got trust. Not as a soft value, but a measure of belief in the young. Because when a young person sees and knows that you see them as capable, something very important shifts. They stop negotiating from permission, and they start negotiating with possibility. The other thing is compassion, right? We often think of it as a personal trait, but I think in our work in community, it has to be a design choice. It shows up in small moments. How do we respond to mistakes? How do we respond to what we usually call bad behavior? How do we interpret silence as laziness, or maybe people are not feeling safe, right? And there's fear. Compassion is not lowering the standards. It is creating the conditions where standards become reachable, because people can grow up to it. The other thing is this shared learning, right? The moment that a center becomes not a center, not a physical space, but a community of people, because that's what matters, right? It's not Sanjivani University where it's situated. It is who are coming together here. What is that field of relationships? The relationship, when it shifts from I teach, you learn, to we build learning together, right? That's where youth-led culture begins. Because as soon as a learner teaches another learner, learning stops being a service it starts being identity. And identity is far more scalable than any program. What is the pattern here? Small acts of trust, compassion, shared learning. It can grow into youth-led communities which are resilient, which can even be very ambitious. Manzil Mystic's budget is double Manzil's budget, right? And his ambition he gets from this faith that, I'm behind him, whereas there's nothing I'm doing. He's more like my teacher now. I get tips of fundraising from him now, because he's all over the place. And this lasting youth-led communities, they all begin with small acts of trust and shared learning. And the innovation is human and not technology. Manzil didn't grow because we built a perfect institution. No, we didn't. There could be many things I could do differently. We just protected a simple ecosystem where trust that young people can lead, compassion which will strengthen effort and not judge struggle, and shared learning that turns students into stakeholders. So, small actions matter. The act of welcome. Not just letting someone enter, but also making them feel that they belong. It's a big difference. The act of responsibility. You give roles early, they're small, they're real, but they're meaningful. They mean a lot to the person who gets that role. There's the act of leadership. You encourage learners to teach. That's leadership. And there's consistent belief. You show up for a student not only when he's performing well, but also when life is messy, which often it is, right? None of these are glamorous things. You don't get a trophy for quiet consistency. What you do get is something better, a community that learns how to carry itself forward of its own momentum. Learning. I also learned that learning multiplies when you look at some conditions. One is you look at, some of this is repeat, you look at belonging before curriculum. Because a child who does not feel safe is a child who will not risk growth. Right? There's contribution and not just consumption. You're part of the crew. You're not just passengers on a ship. The moment a learner teaches someone else, learning becomes identity and not work. Yeah? There's real world stakes. Because when learning is linked to life, which is livelihood, leadership, voice, motivation becomes a personal engine. And you don't have to worry about where it's coming from. These are not abstract theories. I've watched that unfold again and again in different contexts. Whenever young people are given space that respects their potential. They'll do something different from what you expect, but they'll often do something beyond your imagination. Yeah? The uncomfortable lesson for all of us, I think, is that there are no tidy solutions. You don't just get something ready-made and just scale it up, replicate it. You have to be really present for the people you're working with, because everywhere it's different. The young people who come here to this university are going to have a different life experience. They'll think differently. What I did in Delhi is different. You can't just transplant it unthinkingly and say, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it works. You have to customize it for the people who are there. So show up for those people. We often talk about scaling education. What we try to do is scale operations, programs. What we don't try to do is scaling trust. Right? We hesitate to scale this radical idea that learners, especially from marginalized backgrounds, can lead their own and others' learning. Manzil's work suggests that if you scale, when learners can lead others' learning, if you scale that, you scale trust, you scale learning itself. Just in closing, I want to leave everyone with a seed that anyone can plant. Right? Manzil is not just one organization story. It can be demonstrated as a transferable truth that youth-led communities don't emerge because you have, as adults, the perfect answers. Nobody has the perfect answers. They emerge because adults are willing to share power in small and consistent ways. Not very common to us in our culture. It's not very easy for us to share power. But that's the work we have to do with ourselves to be able to open up all these possibilities that lie latent, especially in our country, which has the largest number of youth in the world right now. So if you're an educator, many of us here are. If you're a parent, again, many of us here are. If you're a policy maker, maybe this gets to them, or you are. Or if you're a founder of anything that touches young lives, I want to leave you with this. The next time you see a child or a young person who's disengaged, don't start by asking what's wrong with their motivation. Start by asking, where have you denied them ownership? Start small. Trust one young person with a real role. Let peers teach peers. And respond to struggle with compassion that builds capability. And you'll still have setbacks, you'll still find people who misuse this, but you keep showing up. Don't give up on the idea, because the idea plays itself out. It checks you first. Manzil's story suggests that the first seed of innovation is really a technology. It's a moment of belief that helps a young person see themselves as someone who can shape the world, not just move through it. I don't think the future of education is a better lecture. It is better relationships. Better relationships between people and people. Teachers and students, students and students. Everyone across ages. Sometimes the most transformative thing you can do is very simple. You open the door, you make space, and you let learners become teachers. Thank you.